The lonely stranger. It was a cold afternoon when Sarah entered the small cafe on the corner of Main Street. Outside, the wind blew strongly, tossing people's coats and hair. Inside, the cafe was warm and filled with the soft aroma of coffee and fresh pastries. The place was busy, yet somehow peaceful. People sat in small groups, chatting and laughing. But one table was different. In the far corner of the cafe, near the large window, sat a lonely figure. He wore a long dark cloak that almost touched the floor. His head was slightly down, and his hands were clasped tightly together on the table. His eyes, hidden under the shadow of the cloak's hood, watched people carefully. But his gaze seemed more fearful than curious. Sarah noticed him right away. She had never seen anyone quite like him before. His skin was pale, almost silver, under the cafe lights. His movements were slow and nervous, like he didn't belong here. Something about his loneliness touched her heart. She ordered her coffee and pastry, but couldn't stop glancing at the strange figure. Most people avoided him, whispering quietly, but Sarah felt drawn towards him. She took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and walked slowly towards his table. "Hi," she said softly, with a friendly smile. "Do you mind if I sit here? All the other tables are full." The figure looked up, his eyes glowing faintly under the hood. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, in a gentle but strange voice, he answered, "Yes, you may sit." His accent was odd, but his words were clear. Sarah sat down and placed her cup on the table. For a few seconds, they both sat in silence. "I'm Sarah," she said, trying to make him feel comfortable. "Zyron," he replied after a brief pause. Sarah smiled again. "That's a nice name. Are you visiting from somewhere?" He hesitated. I am, from far away." She giggled lightly. "Well, this town is small, but people here are mostly friendly. I hope you're enjoying your time here." Zyron nodded slowly. "I am learning." He spoke carefully, choosing his words with great attention. Sarah found his behavior a little strange but fascinating. There was a kind innocence in his tone, like he was seeing everything for the first time, as they talked. Zyron's nervous fingers touched a small device hidden under his sleeve. It blinked quietly, feeding him translations and warnings. Tiny, holographic symbols floated in front of his eyes, invisible to humans. The device warned him, human interaction level rising. Observation at maximum. Outside the cafe, a man in a long black coat stood across the street, watching them through the glass window. He whispered into a small communicator, "Target, Zyron, located." Engaging silent observation, Zyron knew he was being watched. His heart beat faster, but he tried not to show it. For some reason, this human girl made him feel calm. Her smile was real. Her voice was gentle. She had no idea who he truly was, or how dangerous this meeting could become. "Do you like Earth?" Sarah asked. Zyron paused before answering. "It is different. People here smile." His simple reply made Sarah chuckle. "Yes, sometimes we do, but not always. Life can be hard here too." Zyron's head tilted slightly, as if studying her words deeply. "In my place, smiling is rare." Sarah's curiosity grew. "Where exactly are you from, Zyron?" He looked into her eyes, sensing her genuine kindness. For a brief moment, he almost told her the truth. But his training held him back. "From far beyond your skies," he finally said. Sarah smiled again. "Well, that sounds very poetic." They continued talking. Sarah told him about her studies, her dreams, and her simple life. Zyron listened carefully, fascinated by her stories of family, friendship, and emotions. Everything she described was foreign to him. On his world, power and fear ruled everything. Emotions were seen as weakness. Yet here, kindness seemed to be a strength. As minutes passed, Zyron felt something unusual. Comfort. It was a feeling he had never truly known. Suddenly, the device on his arm blinked red. Another message appeared. Bounty hunter nearby. Caution advised. Zyron's eyes flickered. He scanned the cafe quickly, but calmly. The man in the black coat was still outside, pretending to be an ordinary pedestrian. Zyron's mind raced. This girl was innocent. She was kind. But by sitting here with him, she was now in danger. He looked at Sarah again, her bright smile still glowing as she shared a funny story about her little brother. For the first time in his life, Zyron made a silent vow. He would protect this human, no matter what. Outside, the man whispered into his communicator again. Prepare for Phase 2. Tonight, we capture him. The curious conversation at the cafe grew quieter as the afternoon sun dipped lower, casting long golden shadows across the polished wooden floor. Outside, clouds slowly gathered, hinting at an evening rain. Inside, the air was warm, but between Sarah and Zyron, a strange new energy began to form. Not tension, but something deeper. Curiosity, trust, and an invisible thread of mystery. Sarah took a sip of her coffee, watching Zyron closely. His eyes, though softly glowing, held a sadness that she couldn't ignore. His hands remained mostly still, but she noticed how he carefully avoided any direct touch with objects or people, like he was afraid of leaving traces. You know, Sarah said gently, you don't seem like someone who just came here for vacation. Zyron hesitated. He wasn't trained for these kinds of conversations. For years, he lived behind palace walls, where every word was calculated, where everyone bowed and feared him. But now, sitting before this simple human girl, he found himself longing to speak freely. Vacation, he repeated slowly. No, not vacation. I escaped. His words surprised Sarah. Escaped? From where? He looked down for a moment, then raised his gaze again, his voice softer. From my world. From my duties. Duties? She asked, leaning forward, fascinated. Zyron nodded slightly. My people, ... They expect much from me, but their way is not my way. Outside, the man in the black coat, still watching, tapped his communicator urgently. He's talking. He's opening up. This is unexpected. Continue observation. As the spy continued watching, another dark vehicle parked nearby. Inside were two heavily armored bounty hunters, silently preparing for their upcoming task. Back in the cafe, Sarah was completely drawn in. What was your way, Zyron? She asked softly. He paused again. These were dangerous topics, but somehow her kindness made him feel safe. On my world, there is no room for small moments. Number, laughter, no. Joy, power, control, strength. That is all they value. I wanted to see something different. Sarah's heart ached, hearing his words. She couldn't imagine living in a place like that. But why would they care if you leave? You're just one person, right? Zyron's smile was brief, almost bitter. No, I am not. Just one person. He almost said more, but stopped himself. Even now, his enemies might be listening. Instead, he changed the topic. Tell me, why are you kind to me? Sarah blinked. What do you mean? Many here. They avoid me. They stare. They whisper. But you sat with me. You smiled. Sarah smiled again. Because you looked like you needed a friend. Zuck studied her face. The simplicity of her answer touched something deep inside him. In his world, kindness was rare, often seen as foolish or weak. But here, this simple act of kindness felt powerful. As their conversation continued, Zyron found himself asking questions about Earth life, about families, about pets, about music, about friendship. Sarah shared her favorite songs, told him funny stories about her childhood, and described the simple joy of sitting around the dinner table with her parents and younger Brother.Zyrron listened like a child discovering an entirely new universe. Every word, every story, every smile was something he had never experienced before. Yet outside, danger grew closer. "We are ready," the bounty hunter whispered through his communicator. "Target is fully engaged. He's letting his guard down," the black-coated spy replied. "Good. Capture tonight. Minimal damage. The human girl is a complication, but she may become useful." Inside the cafe, Zyron's hidden wrist device suddenly vibrated softly. An urgent warning flashed before his eyes. Danger, proximity increasing. High priority threat detected. Prepare for extraction. He quickly looked around, but kept his face calm. The man outside was still there. Zyron knew these tactics. They were waiting for him to make a mistake. But now, the problem was different. Sarah, her involvement was unintended. And now, by sitting here with him, her life was at risk. Zyron's mind raced. He had faced assassination attempts, political traps, and galactic betrayals before. But never had he feared so deeply for another person's safety. "Sarah," Zyron said gently, "you are very kind, but you must be careful." She raised an eyebrow. "Careful? Why?" "Because sometimes kindness attracts unwanted attention." She laughed lightly. "What? You mean like creepy guys staring at me in cafes?" Zyron smiled faintly, but said nothing. His eyes, however, kept scanning the room. Then he noticed something alarming. Across the street, another figure had joined the man in black, a second operative. The plan was moving faster than he anticipated. As the sun fully set and streetlights flickered on, Zyron made a decision. He couldn't leave her unprotected, but revealing his identity now would terrify her. And worse, if his enemies discovered. She knew who he was. They might harm her to get to him. For a brief moment, Zyron considered leaving silently, disappearing before more danger arrived. But something in Sarah's smiling face held him there. For the first time in his life, someone saw him not as a ruler or a fugitive, but simply as a person. He couldn't walk away. He wouldn't. "Sarah," he said softly, his voice lower now, "would you show me more of your world?" Her face lit up. "Of course. I'd love to." Outside, the bounty hunters received the new signal. "They're leaving the cafe. Together. We move tonight." The trap was closing. But Zyron was ready. He stood, offered his hand politely, and together they walked into the darkening streets, unaware that the next few hours would change not only their lives, but the entire galaxy. The unexpected invitations. City lights blinked softly as Sarah and Zyron stepped out of the cafe. Night had fully arrived, and a light rain started falling, creating tiny shimmering drops on the streets. The cold air made Sarah pull her jacket tighter, but Zyron didn't seem to feel it. He walked silently beside her, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. "Do you want to go somewhere else?" Sarah asked cheerfully, unaware of the hidden tension growing around them. Cyrron nodded slowly. "Yes, show me your world." Sarah thought for a moment. "There's a park nearby. Not many people at this hour. It's peaceful," Zyron agreed, though his mind was already calculating every possible risk. In the shadows behind them, two black-coated bounty hunters moved carefully, keeping a safe distance. Their small drones floated above, almost invisible to the human eye. Silently recording every move, they reached the park, where the sound of gentle rain mixed with the quiet whispers of wind through the trees. Street lamps cast soft golden light, and small puddles reflected the city's glow. It was beautiful in its simplicity. They sat on a wooden bench under a large oak tree. Zyron watched as Sarah stretched her arms, enjoying the cool air. "This is one of my favorite places," she said. "It's simple, but after a busy day, it feels like ... freedom." Zyron listened carefully. Freedom. That word carried heavy meaning for him. On my world, he finally spoke. There are no places like this. No quiet, no peace. Sarah looked at him. Really? Why? He hesitated. Because every moment is controlled. Every step watched. His voice lowered. Like tonight. Sarah's eyes widened. What do you mean? He glanced around. In the distance, near a cluster of trees, he saw a faint red blink, the edge of a cloaked scout drone. I mean, Zyron continued. Carefully. Sometimes there are eyes that you cannot see. Sarah tried to follow his gaze, but saw nothing. She laughed nervously. Are you trying to scare me? Zyron smiled faintly, but said nothing. Inside, his hidden device flashed. Warnings. Multiple hostiles approaching. Estimated contact. 12 minutes. The bounty hunters moved closer, careful not to be seen. They whispered to their commander, target remains unaware of full pursuit. Human girl is still present. Good, the voice replied. Capture them both. Minimize human witnesses. Meanwhile, Sarah noticed Zyron's deep breath and distant stare. Zyron, is there something you're not telling me? He looked at her, torn between trust and caution. He had never shared his secrets with anyone, but this human girl, with her kindness and innocence, had touched something he thought was long dead inside him. He made a decision. Sarah, he said quietly, where I come from, I was not just a traveler. I held responsibility. Too much of it. She leaned in. What kind of responsibility? He looked up at the sky, rain softly falling on his hood. I was born into power, born to rule, but I ran from it. My own counsel. They hunt me. Sarah's smile faded. She tried to understand. You mean, like a king? He nodded slowly. More than that. An emperor. Her mouth opened in shock, but no words came out. You're serious? She whispered. Zyrron. Single quotes as glowing eyes met hers. I never wanted power. I wanted to understand what makes life beautiful. I found it here, in kindness, in smiles, in you. Sarah's heart pounded. This quiet man who had seemed so shy was now revealing a secret that sounded impossible. But before she could respond, Zyron's device beeped sharply. Imminent threat. 4 minutes to contact. We must move, Zyron said urgently, standing up. What's happening? Sarah asked, fear growing in her voice. They are coming. I cannot allow them to take you. As they hurried through the park, shadows moved quickly behind them. Silent hunters emerged, surrounding the park like wolves closing in on prey. Sarah's breathing quickened. Zyron, who are they? They are bounty hunters from my world, hired to capture me. They reached a narrow alley near an old stone, while Zyron stopped, listening carefully. Stay behind me, Sarah. Whatever happens, don't move. Just then, 3 figures appeared, blocking their path. Heavy armor, black visors, glowing weapons. One of them raised a voice amplifier. Zyron of Zyrak Empire. Surrender. Your escape is over. Zyron pulled back his hood fully, for the first time, revealing his true alien face, pale silver skin, high cheekbones, glowing blue eyes, and strange markings along his jawline. Even now, his posture remained calm and royal. I will not return, Zyron said firmly, and you will not touch her. We will take both of you, the lead hunter said coldly. She knows too much. Sarah grabbed Zyron's arm, her heart racing. Zyron, we need to run. No, he said quietly. They will chase us forever. This ends now. His arms suddenly shifted. Advanced alien technology activated. His sleeves transformed into glowing armored gauntlets. A shimmering blue energy shield formed around him and Sarah. The bounty hunters fired. High-pitched beams struck the shield, sparking loudly. Zyrron moved swiftly, raising his arm. A pulse of light burst forward, knocking 2 attackers backwards. Sarah screamed, But Zyron kept her protected inside the energy dome. More attackers rushed in from both sides. Drones flew overhead, scanning for weaknesses. Zyron's voice remained calm. "Stay close, Sarah." Suddenly, from a hidden compartment on his back, thin metallic wings unfolded, glowing with soft blue light. In one powerful jump, Zyron lifted both himself and Sarah into the air. Flying above the attackers, the bounty hunters fired wildly. But Zyron's shield deflected the shots as they soared over the city rooftops. Sarah held tightly onto Zyron, eyes wide with shock and terror. Her entire world had changed in minutes. "Zyron, what now?" she cried. He glanced back at her, voice firm but gentle. "Now, I take you to safety. I will explain everything." Below them, the bounty hunters watched helplessly as their target escaped into the night sky. But this was not over. Not yet. Deep in orbit above Earth, a massive cloaked warship received the latest report. A cold voice echoed inside the command chamber. He revealed himself. "The girl remains with him. Deploy Phase 2. Earth's protection will not save them." The galactic hunt had only just begun. The dangerous encounter city lights grew smaller. Behind them, as Zyron carried Sarah high above the sleeping town, the cold wind whipped her hair as she clung tightly to him, her mind spinning with fear, confusion, and disbelief. Below, the bounty hunters grew smaller, like ants. But Zyron knew this was only temporary. They would not stop. Not now. As they crossed the edge of the forest, Zyron gently descended, landing in a dark clearing surrounded by tall trees. Soft rain continued to fall, creating a quiet rhythm on the leaves above them. Sarah stumbled slightly as her feet touched the ground. Her legs were trembling. She stared at Zyron, her voice shaking. "What is happening? Why are they chasing you? Who are you really?" Zyron looked at her with calm, glowing eyes. "I am the last hope of my empire. I was born into a system that worships power, cruelty, control. My father ruled through fear. I was supposed to follow, but I refused." He paused, his voice heavy. "I wanted to understand life beyond control, beyond slavery, so I escaped. But those who seek power, they hunt me." Sarah tried to catch her breath. "And me? Why do they care about me?" "Because you know now. And because you showed me something they fear, compassion." His words sank deeply into her heart. She had only wanted to be kind. Now she was trapped inside a galactic war. "Zyron," she whispered, "what are we going to do?" Before he could answer, his wrist device flashed again. "Warning, heavy ship descending. Multiple hostiles inbound. Estimated arrival, 3 minutes." Zyron's face grew serious. "They've deployed a warship. High above the clouds, invisible to human satellites, a giant black vessel hovered silently. It was the size of a small city, covered in dark armored plates and dozens of glowing thrusters. It had crossed countless star systems, hunting its prey. Its scanners locked onto Zyron's location, inside the ship. The High Commander issued his final order. "Surround the target. Secure the girl alive. Eliminate resistance." Below, in the forest clearing, Zyron activated a hidden mechanism on his arm. From beneath the ground, metal panels slid open silently, revealing a small but advanced spacecraft, a personal escape vessel hidden long ago. Sarah gasped. "Is that your ship?" "Yes, but it's not strong enough to fight them, Zyron," said Bait. "It's only for escape." The ground suddenly shook as large armored dropships descended from the clouds, landing in a wide circle around the forest. Dozens of black armored soldiers poured out, forming tight lines. Drones buzzed through the trees like silent ghosts, surrounding the target completely. Floodlights burst into life, turning the peaceful forest into a blinding battlefield. A deep voice echoed through loudspeakers. "Zyron of Xeric Empire, you are surrounded. Surrender immediately. The human will not be harmed if you comply." Sarah froze, her heart pounding in terror. Zyron gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Stay close, no matter what. The soldiers moved forward in perfect formation, energy rifles pointed directly at them. Zyron activated his energy shield once more, its blue glow forming a dome around them. This is your last chance, the voice warned. Zyrron whispered to Sarah. They will not stop. If they capture me, they will enslave my people again. If they capture you, they will silence you forever. Then what do we do? Sarah whispered desperately. Zyron's eyes narrowed. We fight. Suddenly, with a wave of his arm, he sent a shockwave of energy outward. Several drones exploded in midair. Soldiers staggered but held formation. Their rifles lit up, firing concentrated beams at the shield. The force shook the ground beneath them. Sarah screamed and covered her head as the shield absorbed the blasts. Zyron stood like a solid pillar, holding the shield with both hands, his face glowing with determination. Then something unexpected happened. From the treetops above, a second group of ships appeared, smaller, sleeker, and heavily armed. Their symbol flashed briefly: the Resistance. They were not from Zyron's enemies. They were his secret allies, loyal rebels from his empire who still believed in his vision of peace. The Resistance. Leader's voice crackled through the air. Zyron, stand by. We've come for you. Laser fire rained down from the sky as Resistance fighters opened fire on the bounty hunters below. Chaos erupted. Soldiers scattered for cover. Explosions lit up the forest like a violent storm. Cyrron quickly pulled Sarah towards the hidden spacecraft. This is our chance. We leave now. They sprinted across the clearing as Resistance fighters provided cover from above. Explosions shook the ground behind them. Trees shattered, and fire lit up the sky as Zyron activated the ship's systems. Sarah stumbled into the small cockpit beside him. Everything inside glowed with strange symbols and unfamiliar technology. Hang on, Zyron said as the ship lifted off. This will be fast. The small craft shot upward like a bullet, weaving between blasts of enemy fire. Drones tried to intercept them, but were blown apart by the Resistance fighters, high above. The giant warship locked onto them, charging its main cannon. Inside the escape ship, alarms blared. Sarah screamed as a bright beam sliced through the clouds, narrowly missing them. We're not fast enough, she cried. Zyron's hands flew across the controls. Then we changed the game. Suddenly, a hidden core inside his ship activated phase shift drive. Within seconds, a blinding light surrounded them. The ship vanished, slipping into a pocket of hyperspace just as the warship's beam fired again. Tearing through empty air, the warship commander slammed his fist in frustration. They escaped, but not for long. Meanwhile, inside the shifting light, Sarah sat frozen, staring at Zyron. Where are we now? She whispered. Cyrron exhaled deeply. Safe, for now. He looked into her frightened eyes, voice calm but heavy. This is only the beginning, Sarah. They will follow us across galaxies, but you are part of this now, and together, we will end this. The hunt had just become a full-scale war. The Galactic Emperor's ship floated through a glowing tunnel of hyperspace, its silver hull gleaming under swirling blue and purple lights. Inside, the cockpit was strangely quiet. Sarah sat beside Zyron, her heart still pounding from the battle they had narrowly escaped. Everything she knew about life had shattered in a single night. Zyron glanced at her, his face calm but heavy with thought. He could sense the storm of emotions inside her. Are you hurt? He asked softly. She shook her head, but her voice trembled. I don't understand any of this. One moment I was having coffee with a stranger, and now I'm flying across space, running from soldiers, ships, drones. You're being hunted like some kind of... She stopped herself, but Zyron completed her sentence calmly, like a traitor. His eyes glowed faintly as he continued. but also like a king, or rather, an emperor. Sarah stared at him, still struggling to accept what she had heard earlier. You're really an emperor? Siren nodded slowly. Yes, I was born as Siren of House Varak, supreme ruler of the Zirak Empire, 12 star systems under one rule. For generations, my family ruled through fear. Our people were slaves to the Council's power, to war, and greed. I was trained, since birth, to be like them, but I rejected it. He paused, as if reliving painful memories. When my father died, the Council expected me to continue his legacy, but I saw the truth. Our empire was dying inside. People were starving. Revolts were growing. There was no hope, only control. I tried to change it. I tried to offer peace. His voice grew colder. The Council feared peace. Peace means freedom. Freedom means they lose power. Sarah listened, completely absorbed. So, they turned against you? Yes, Siren said softly. They accused me of betrayal. Attempted to assassinate me. I barely escaped. But now they send bounty hunters to hunt me across the galaxy. And when they saw you with me, they decided you were a threat too. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. But why? I'm nobody. I'm just a normal girl from a small town. Because your kindness is dangerous to them, Siren said. You treated me like a person, not like a ruler or an alien. To them, that's a weakness they don't understand. To me, it's the most powerful thing I've ever seen. His words hung heavy between them. The ship suddenly jolted slightly as the hyperspace tunnel ended. Outside, stars twinkled in a distant part of the galaxy, far from Earth, deep within neutral space. Where are we? Sarah asked. A safe zone, Siren answered. One of the last places the Council fears to enter. Ahead of them, a small hidden space station hovered quietly near a dim orange star. It was heavily cloaked, invisible to most scanners. This was a secret base, home of the Resistance. As they approached, Resistance ships surrounded them, scanning for threats. Siren sent his codes, and they were allowed to dock. When the ship doors opened, Sarah's breath caught. Inside the station stood dozens of beings, some human-like, some alien, all watching Siren with respect. Many knelt as he stepped out. "Welcome back, Emperor," said a tall female alien with shimmering purple skin and large violet eyes. She wore ceremonial armor marked with the symbol of the old empire. "You're still loyal," Lyra Siren said with a small smile. "Always, my lord," she answered. "We've prepared for this day." Sarah followed closely behind, feeling like she had entered a science fiction movie. Strange creatures walked past her, some whispering curiously about the human girl. "Who are all these people?" Sarah asked quietly. "These are the remnants of my loyal forces," Siren explained. "Scholars, soldiers, civilians who believe, in my vision, a peaceful empire built on freedom. They've risked everything to hide me and keep the Resistance alive." They entered a grand chamber, filled with holographic star maps, showing movements of enemy fleets. At the center stood a council table, where leaders debated strategies. "The council has grown bolder," Lyra reported. "They are spreading lies, saying you're dead, that we've surrendered. And their war machine grows stronger every day," added another commander. "Soon they will launch full attacks across every neutral system." Siren's eyes darkened. "Then we act now." He turned to Sarah. "This is why you are important, Sarah." "Me," she said, confused. "But I'm just a schoolgirl." "You are more than that," Siren said. "The Galactic Charter, the ancient law that built the first empire, requires that any claim to rule must be witnessed by an independent species, a neutral being, a pure voice, untouched by politics." He continued, "Your kindness brought you into my path, and now your voice can break the Council's control." Sarah's eyes widened. "You mean I can help you reclaim your throne?" "Yes," Siren said firmly. Your testimony will expose them. And if the people hear you, the rebellion will rise everywhere." Before Sarah could reply, loud alarms blared across the station. Red lights flashed violently. "They found us," Lyra shouted. "Enemy ships inbound. Several dreadnoughts. Impossible." Another shouted, "How did they find our cloaked base?" Zyron's face darkened. "They must have tracked me when I escaped Earth." Sarah's heart pounded. "What do we do now?" Zyron's voice was calm but strong. "We fight, and this time, we win." As the resistance scrambled into action, massive enemy ships broke through the asteroid field surrounding the station. Beams of energy lit up space like an apocalyptic storm. The final battle for the Empire had begun. The final stand entire station shook violently as the first wave of enemy blasts struck. The lights flickered, and sirens screamed across the hidden base. Outside the massive observation windows, flashes of brilliant blue and red. Energy lit up space like a terrifying storm. The enemy fleet had arrived in full force. Dozens of dreadnoughts, cruisers, and fighter squadrons surrounding the tiny rebel station like a pack of hungry wolves. Inside the war room, Zyron stood tall in the center, surrounded by his commanders, and Sarah, who clutched the side of the console to keep her balance. "Enemy shields at full strength. They're blocking our outer defenses," Lyra shouted, staring at the holographic battle display. "Their numbers are too large," another officer warned. "We won't last long." Zyron's eyes blazed with determination. "Then we strike at their core." As the battle outside raged, the enemy's voice crackled through the communication systems. "Zyron, of the Broken Throne, your resistance is meaningless. Surrender the human girl, and you will be spared." Zyron pressed a button, activating his reply. "Your lies are finished. This rebellion lives. Your rule ends tonight." He turned to Sarah, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Sarah, this is the moment. Are you ready?" She took a deep breath. Her hands trembled, but her voice was firm. "Yes, let's finish this." "Good," Zyron said. "Lyra, activate the Galactic broadcast." From deep within the station, an ancient machine powered up the Galactic voice, an ancient communication system once used to reach every corner of the Empire. Though forbidden by the Council, Zyron had secretly repaired it. Sarah stood before the glowing platform as cameras activated. Her face was projected across thousands of systems instantly. "To the people of the Zirak Empire," Sarah began, her voice shaking but growing stronger with each word. "I am not one of you. I am a human from a distant world. But I have seen your true emperor. Not as a ruler of fear, but as a man who seeks peace." She continued, her voice echoing across planets, spaceports, and cities where people stopped to listen. "Your council lies to you. They fear him because he believes in freedom for you, for all of us. I was there when they hunted him. I was there when he risked everything to protect even a stranger like me." Her words cut through the Empire like a blade. On distant planets, slaves, workers, and oppressed citizens watched in silence, their hearts beating faster. "You are not alone," Sarah said, tears forming in her eyes. "Rise. Stand with him. Stand for your freedom." As the message spread, the enemy commander watching from his dreadnought slammed his fist in fury. "Cut the signal. Jam all frequencies." But it was too late. On many worlds, secret rebel cells activated. Small uprisings ignited. Even some of the Council's own fleet captains hesitated, receiving orders but questioning their loyalty. Inside the rebel station, Zyron gave his final command, launched the Phoenix Protocol. At his words, hidden panels across the station opened, revealing dozens of experimental war drones and powerful battlecruisers that had been secretly built for this very moment. "Deploy all forces," Lyra shouted. "Shield breakers to the front." The rebel fleet surged forward, firing concentrated beams that targeted the enemy shield generators. One by one, the massive dreadnought's protective fields flickered and collapsed. "Their shields are failing," an officer cried. "Focus fire," Siren ordered. Outside, the battle exploded into a full-scale war. Rebel fighters weaved through enemy lines, disabling engines, cutting communication links, and sowing chaos. Massive explosions tore through enemy cruisers, their debris spinning into the void. Yet the enemy still outnumbered them. For every ship destroyed, 2 more advanced. "Their flagship is powering its main cannon," Lyra warned. "They're targeting the station itself." The enemy's largest ship, a monstrous vessel known as the Wrath of Dominion, charged its core weapon, capable of vaporizing the entire station in one shot. Siren's mind raced. They had one chance. "Prepare the core lance," he commanded Dape. Beneath the station, a forbidden weapon hummed to life, an ancient energy spear, capable of piercing even the strongest enemy armor. "Lock on target," Siren whispered. The enemy flagship's cannon glowed brighter, moments from firing. The station shook under heavy fire. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Sarah held on to the console, her heart pounding like a drum. "Core lance locked," Lyra confirmed. Zyrron raised his hand. Fire. A brilliant beam erupted from the station, slicing through space like a lightning strike. It pierced the flagship's main cannon directly, triggering a chain reaction. Within seconds, the mighty Wrath of Dominion exploded into a ball of blinding white fire, breaking the enemy fleet's morale instantly. Enemy ships began to scatter. Some surrendered, some fled, others fell quickly under rebel fire. Inside the war room, cheers erupted. "They're retreating," Lyra shouted with joy. "We did it." Siren exhaled, finally allowing himself a small smile. "It's not over yet," he said. "But this is the beginning of their end." He turned to Sarah, his voice filled with gratitude. "You saved, not just me, Sarah. You saved millions." Before she could respond, another officer rushed in. "High Council transmission, my lord." On the main screen appeared the faces of the Council, pale, angry, and desperate. "You will regret this, Siren," one shouted. "The Council will rebuild." But Siren stood tall. "No," he said calmly. "Your rule is finished. Your lies have crumbled. Your own people rise against you now. You have lost." He ended the transmission with a press of his hand. Across the Empire, news of the Council's defeat spread like wildfire. Rebels stormed government buildings. Citizens tore down banners of fear. The people finally found their voice as Siren and Sarah stood together watching the victory unfold. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "Sarah, you've given my people something no weapon ever could hope." Tears filled her eyes as she smiled. "You gave me something too, Siren, a purpose." High above the stars, the galaxy began to heal, but in the shadows of distant systems, whispers of a darker force began to stir. The final battle was won, but the true war for the future had only just begun. A new beginning. Weeks had passed since the battle. Across the 12 systems of the Zarek Empire, the old banners of the Council had fallen. Cities once ruled by fear now sang with celebration. Slaves were freed. Prisons were opened. People marched in the streets, waving symbols of the new rebellion that had turned into a revolution. Yet even in victory, Siren remained cautious. Inside the grand hall of the ancient imperial palace now, reclaimed by the resistance, Siren stood before a crowd of leaders, citizens, and warriors who had risked everything. Beside him stood Sarah, dressed in a long flowing gown gifted by the Loyalists, representing not just humanity, but the very voice of freedom. Giant holographic screens broadcasted the ceremony to every planet, spaceport, and colony in the Empire. All fell silent as Siren raised his hand. "Today," he began, his voice calm but powerful, "we close the darkest chapter of our history. No longer will we rule through fear. No longer will voices be silenced. Today, We begin something new. The crowd roared with applause. We will build an empire, not of chains, but of open hands. Not of weapons, but of wisdom. Not of control, but of compassion. He paused, glancing at Sarah, who smiled softly. This vision would not exist without the kindness of one stranger. In a simple cafe on a distant world, I found something more powerful than any throne, the courage to be human. Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady as she addressed the Empire once more. I may be from a small world, far from your stars, but I believe what makes us strong is not where we come from, it's how we treat one another. Today, you have a chance to build something beautiful. As she spoke, across distant planets, old enemies laid down their weapons. Former council soldiers chose loyalty to the new vision, while frightened citizens dared to hope again. But deep in the shadows of the council's former stronghold, a secret chamber still burned with bitter whispers. Several surviving council members gathered in hiding, their faces twisted with fury. He thinks he's won, one hissed. But he underestimates the ancient forces buried beyond the outer rim. Another nodded. Let him celebrate his fragile peace. We will return, with something far more terrible than he can imagine. They activated a strange dark beacon, a signal beyond the known stars, toward a forgotten corner of the galaxy where ancient horrors slept. The seeds of a new danger were quietly planted. Back at the palace, the celebration continued into the night. Fireworks filled the skies of the capital planet. Music echoed across wide-open plazas where people danced freely for the first time in generations. Later, as the festivities calmed, Zyron and Sarah walked together under the twin moons. The night was peaceful, but both of them knew that peace required vigilance. I never thought my life would lead me here, Sarah said softly, looking up at the alien stars. Neither did I, Zyron replied. But sometimes, the smallest acts change the largest destinies. He stopped and turned to her. Sarah, I have something to ask you. She looked at him, surprised. I cannot rebuild this empire alone. I have warriors, scholars, and leaders. But what I need most is someone who sees the value of kindness before strength. Someone who balances my instincts with wisdom. He paused, taking her hand gently. Stay, not as a guest, but as my advisor, as my partner. Sarah's heart raced. Earth was her home, but after everything she had seen, cruelty, the bravery, the hope, she realized she had become part of something far greater. I don't know anything about ruling an empire, she admitted. You know everything about being human, Zyron smiled. And that is exactly what we need. Sarah smiled back, tears shimmering in her eyes. Then I stay. They stood under the moons, as the stars shone brightly above, symbolizing not just the end of tyranny, but the start of something far greater, true union between two worlds. Yet, far beyond the edge of known space, something ancient stirred. Deep in the black void where no star dared to shine, monstrous ships silent for thousands of years woke, answering the Council's dark beacon. And so, while the galaxy celebrated its first true taste of freedom, a new shadow crept ever closer. The Empire had found hope, but its greatest test was still to come.